So the alarm goes off. It's 6:30 a.m. Your soul hasn't even re-entered your body yet, but your phone is already yelling at you like a drill sergeant. You snooze it, scroll through memes to remember why life is worth living, and then finally crawl out of bed like a prisoner doing his morning roll call. You shower, dress, and sit in traffic, all so you can arrive at your office or your kitchen table if you're remotely miserable, and start another 8 hours of pretending to care about corporate synergy and team building exercises. And at some point, probably around hour 3 of replying, sure, sounds good, to a 47 message email thread, you think to yourself, why does this feel like a life sentence? I haven't even committed a crime. If you've ever thought there has to be more to life than spreadsheets, Zoom fatigue, and passive-aggressively signed emails, you're not alone. Millions of people feel the same way. They just silently cry into their lunch break burritos instead of saying it out loud. Now, to be clear, this isn't about hating work. Humans actually like being productive. We like solving problems, building things, creating stuff, making an impact. That part is fine. It's the structure we're forced into, the repetitive, soul-crushing, clock-watching conveyor belt of show up, do the thing, go home, repeat forever, that makes you feel less like a human and more like a cog wearing business casual. And no, it's not your fault. You didn't choose this system. You were just born into it, handed a calendar full of Mondays and told, this is adulating, get used to it. But what if this system was never really designed for you in the first place? The history of the 9 to 5 aka factory work for modern peasants. Let's travel back in time, shall we? The 9-5 schedule was popularized by Henry Ford in the 1920s. Yes, that Henry Ford, the guy who made cars. He decided that working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week would be good for productivity and reduce burnout. And you know what? It was revolutionary for factory workers. See, back then, people were physically building things. You punch in, do your shift on the assembly line, punch out, and go home with dirty hands and a paycheck. Fast forward 100 years, and you're in an air-conditioned office replying to Karen about font sizes, sitting in meetings that could have been emails, while your brain quietly dies from lack of purpose. The world evolved, but the schedule didn't. It's like trying to run Spotify on a flip phone. We're knowledge workers, creatives, solopreneurs, service providers, tech specialists, and yet we're still forced into a structure designed for operating machines. No wonder it feels wrong. You're not lazy, you're just misaligned with a century-old industrial calendar. Why it feels like prison. Let's be honest. There are days when working a 9 to 5 doesn't just feel like work. It feels like doing time. Here's why. You can't leave when you want. There's no freedom to spontaneously walk into the sun and think big thoughts. You've got back-to-back meetings until your bladder files a complaint. You need permission to take lunch. And if you go 11 minutes over, you get passive-aggressive Slack messages asking if you're still good on that deliverable. You follow a strict schedule, stare at clocks, and watch every second like it owes you rent money. You dress a certain way to fit into a culture you never designed because heaven forbid you show up in a hoodie and threaten the corporate status quo. And most importantly, you don't own your time. Someone else does. You're renting your Monday through Friday to the highest bidder, and sometimes that bidder is a guy named Brad who insists on saying let's circle back 14 times a day. Even if you like your coworkers, even if your manager's chill, even if you have a decent coffee machine and occasionally get free pizza, the feeling lingers. This isn't freedom, it's just a well-decorated cage. And when you live your entire life counting down to Friday, only to feel anxious by Sunday afternoon, what you have isn't a career. It's a contained sentence with health benefits. The psychological effects no one talks about. Let's talk about the side effects of a full-time job no one includes in the benefits package. Because even if your office has beanbags and kombucha on tap, something still feels off. Why? Because you've lost 3 things most people need to function like actual humans. 1. Autonomy. You can't choose how or when to work. You follow tasks like a robot on low battery mode. You want to take a walk to think? Sorry, Cheryl just added you to a 4 p.m. meeting called Touch Base and Alignment Strategy. So, creativity. Repetitive, predictable tasks do something terrible to your brain. They make it stop thinking. You're not solving problems, you're pushing buttons, clicking checkboxes, copy pasting the same 5 email responses. 3. Identity. When someone asks, what do you do? And your entire existence is summed up by your job title, that's not a life, that's a label. And no one dreams of becoming senior workflow coordinator of spreadsheet purgatory. Why the paycheck becomes a trap. Now let's talk about the golden handcuffs. Shiny on the outside, squeezing your soul on the inside. Here's how it goes. You get a job, you get a paycheck, you upgrade your lifestyle, you need the job to maintain the lifestyle, you feel stuck. Congratulations, you've just unlocked level 1 of the survival cycle. But here's the plot twist. You're not staying because you love it, you're staying because the fear of the unknown is louder than the pain of the present. You tell yourself things like, it's not that bad, everyone hates their job, at least I have health insurance. And you cling to the paycheck like it's an oxygen tank, forgetting that oxygen isn't supposed to come with strings attached. You work just hard enough to not get fired. They pay you just enough to not quit. And everyone pretends this is normal. Alternatives that don't involve selling everything and moving to Bali. So what's the escape plan? Don't worry, I'm not here to tell you to quit your job and become a coconut influencer. Instead, let's talk realistic alternatives that don't require a trust fund or an existential crisis in Thailand. 1. Freelance a skill. Whatever you do at work, someone somewhere will pay for that skill without the HR department and weekly meetings about team culture. Start small. Upwork, Fiverr, 1 client, 1 invoice. That's your first exit step. 2. Sell a digital product. Create a template, ebook, course, guide, anything useful that solves a problem. You make it once, it sells forever. Passive income is just income that works harder than you do. 3. Remote and flexible jobs. There are full-time jobs out there that let you work when and where you want, not just from your desk chair that gives you chiropractor bills. 4. Stack small wins. You don't need to go full entrepreneur overnight. Just start building 1 small income stream that says, hey, maybe I don't need this job forever. The goal isn't overnight riches. It's optionality. The ability to say no when something feels wrong and yes when something feels right. Redesigning work around life, not the other way around. Imagine this. You wake up when your body is ready, not when your alarm slaps you into consciousness. You work on something that actually excites your brain. You choose your schedule. You prioritize your time, and your calendar doesn't look like a war crime. That's not fantasy. That's what happens when you build your work around your life, not your life around your work. You don't have to be a billionaire. You just have to stop living like a permanently exhausted shell, counting down to retirement like it's parole. The point of work isn't to sacrifice your life. It's to fund it without burning your soul in the process. So if your 9 to 5 feels like a prison, maybe it's time to stop decorating the cell and start digging the tunnel. Drop a comment if you've ever screamed into a pillow because of mandatory team bonding. Like this video if you're ready to trade burnout for breathing room. Subscribe if you're done surviving and ready to design a life you actually want to wake up to.